double check valves. Fill the stroke. Water comes out the top. Fill the stroke. Water comes out the top. It works. Yeah! Alright, so we're going to start with the outer assembly here. So, we know that our well is 13'8" long, so you will need a piece of 2-inch PVC to accommodate that. So I had to buy 2 sticks because I'm going to need a section of it minus the length of these fittings, and we'll go over that here in a minute. As far as the components aside from the pipe itself, you need a 1-inch check valve with the flow pointed up. So this is the top of the well, this is the bottom where the water sits. So as you can see, it plunges up, so the flow goes up. Then we have our 1-inch NPT to 1¼ adapter, a little section of 1¼ pipe, an 1¼ to 1.5" bushing, an 1.5" to 2-inch reducer, and then this is basically your bottom assembly. From here, you'll go up with pipe as high as you can. So like for me, I'll put a 10-foot stick here, and then I'll put this coupling in place to continue on with my pipe. And then my pipe will come up about a foot out of the top of the well. Now, this top assembly here isn't necessarily necessary, it just makes life easy. I have 2 repair couplings here, and then a 2-inch to 4-inch, which is my casing. If you use 3-inch, you would have obviously a 2-inch to 3-inch casing here. And what I've done is I've come in and modified this with a grinder, like a little rotary grinder, and smoothed this out so that there is no lip, so that the 2-inch pipe can go straight through it. The reason I did that is so that I didn't have to make a coupling right here unnecessarily. So basically, I would slide this repair coupling down. I'm going to slide this down to where they meet. So then I would mark this and glue it once it's in the well. And then this one would go over the top and get glued here. So basically all 3 of these connections would be glued. That way the pipe cannot go up and down within this assembly. And then in order to leave this retrievable, we do not want to glue this to the casing. I'm going to put 4 zip screws, like little sheet metal self-tappers, into the casing to keep it in place. If we ever need to recover this bottom assembly, like when this check valve wears out or we want to inspect the well, remove the 4 zip screws, and then this whole assembly will come out as a piece. The check valve can unthread and be replaced, or you can actually disassemble it and service it if you'd like, but they're cheap enough, I would just recommend replacing it. That is the outer or lower assembly. And then now what we have here is the actual pumping assembly, or the inner assembly. So again, we're starting with the check valve, flow direction pointing up. Next we have a 3/4 inch slip. Oh, we need 2 of these. A 3/4 inch slip to 3/4 inch PVC fitting. You could also use a close nipple here, but again, they didn't have any in plastic for me to when I picked all this stuff up, so I just did this. And I'll put a short piece of 3/4 here. Next, you have a 1.25" to 3/4 NPT fitting. These will get screwed together here. Then you have a 1.25" coupling. It goes here, and this is the important part. This is your actual sealing assembly. You need a short piece, and this is too long right now, of 1.25" PVC. It might not be too long, we'll see. And then this O-ring, I have it linked in the description. What this will do is seal inside of 2-inch pipe. If this O-ring is not here or it fails, this will not work. So you put this on, and then another 1.25" assembly, or 1.25" coupling. You put it on. Actually, this is just long enough. You put it in to where this O-ring is tight, it won't slide. Obviously, all these connections need to be glued, but just for demonstration, this is where we're going. And then this will be lubricated with some Vaseline before it goes in the hole, just to make sure you don't break it on any of the connections. And we are also deburring all connections with a deburr tool. So anywhere where you've cut pipe, you'll deburr it to give it a nice little radius. I've actually done that inside of here as well to clean this up. So one of these little deburr tools you can buy at Home Depot. I've had this one a long time. Anyway, that's that. I'll actually link this on Amazon as well. Next, so this is your piston assembly. So basically, so far, we look like this. So we have our check valve and our piston. And the arrangement can change technically, like you could put your check valve here, but for simplicity's sake, to put everything on the bottom, the serviceable components at the bottom, so you don't have to break anything apart in the event of a failure, this is the most simple way to do it. And I'm going to back up a minute. All these threads must have Teflon tape. Okay, so next, another 1¼ to 3/4 bushing, and then you go up with your pipe. With this, you want this pipe to stick up at its lowest point a few inches above the top of this assembly here. Oh, this is repair coupling. The top of this pipe. So that when your handle comes down, you're here, and then you can stroke up and down. Your stroke is really limited to how far you can reach and how far your hose is, but realistically I'm doing about a 2-foot stroke. So, okay, so then again, you have a coupling. There's a couple different variations of these. Got another one here. There's a short coupling and a long coupling. I've used short couplings. They work fine. Long coupling just gives you a little bit more bearing since you are going to be pulling on this thing, but realistically this should work fine because you're not exerting that much pressure on the pipe any more than full working pressure of the PVC. So anyway, whichever one of these you want, you're going to come up. So this pipe is going to be sitting down in here somewhere, down inside the well. You're going to be sticking up with pipe. And then at a certain point, you're going to want this T. So this is a 3/4 by 1/2 inch NPT T. And what this is for, so I can put a barb on it and a hose coming off of it. You could use a 3/4 by 3/4. I didn't have one, so that's why I'm going with this. The bigger your bore, the faster your downstroke will expel water. But realistically, this should be fine. And then this is your handle. I still need to go find, I bought 2 of these, I don't know where the other one is right now, but a 3/4 inch cap. So basically, this will be your handle. You're going to put some length, whatever you're comfortable with. I think I'll put about 10 inches on either side, and then you'll cap it so that the water doesn't come up and out here, so that the water is forced to come out of this fitting. Okay? So we'll cap this. Basically, all these dead spaces will have some amount of PVC, whatever your well depth is. The well we're working with is 11 foot and change. I'm not sure how deep you could go and this actually not be too tiresome. I'm thinking probably 30 foot is probably the limit that you'd want to do this at, because you are picking up 30 foot of water at 3/4 inch, and that gets relatively heavy. Anyway, let's go out, assemble this thing, and I'll show you the pieces after they're assembled. Alright, one more thing to note before we get started is, depending on the length of your well, we've done this with a 15-foot hole or so, and it is okay. However, I'm going to go ahead, even though this well is relatively shallow, I'm going to go ahead and add a bushing to help stabilize the pipe. It's not completely necessary, but it will help the 3/4 inch pipe from buckling if you're pushing real hard to try to pump real fast. So to do this, what you would do is take 2/4 inch, or you'd take 2 1¼ by 3/4 bushings and an 1¼ coupler, and just assemble this like this on your pipe somewhere. So I'm going to install this assembly on our well 5 foot up from the bottom. That's going to put it about in the center of the casing in regards to the water line. So this will just help keep everything nice and straight. There's no O-ring or anything here, so it's not going to affect any, it's not going to be 2 seal assemblies with a dead space in the middle. It's just a single O-ring for the system, and then this is just more of a guide bushing. So we'll glue this basically just like this and go with it. Alright, so one more thing you can do. You have 2 options when you make this bushing. You can make it where this is just like a dead space inside of your pipe, and you cut your 3/4 inch pipe in both places. Or, it's a little bit dangerous, use a vise. Don't try to freehand this. You can actually, with a 7/8 and a 1 inch hole saw, you can, using the 7/8 as a guide, you can actually hog this out, and it's going to be challenging to get it completely perfect, but really you only need to go in past the shoulder, so about 1/2 inch or so. You can hog this out so that now your 3/4 inch pipe just drifts, so that really the inside of this fitting keep grabbing the wrong one. The inside of this will never see water. The pipe will just go straight through it. So I'm going to go ahead and hog these out, and then we'll see how that goes. So remember, I'm not a professional, just a DIYer. Do your own research. Make sure that you're being safe and doing the right thing. This is for entertainment purposes only, because this is a little sketchy. So I'm going to try Alright, so now that I've got that started, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this 7/8 piece. I'm just going to let this do its thing to right there. And this looks like crap. But now I'm making a huge mess in my clean trailer. But if you look closely now, the lip, let me grab a factory one. So here's the one we just modified. And then here's this one. So this entire lip is gone. So theoretically now, a 3/4 inch pipe would just slide straight through here. So let's see how this works. I'm going to do another one. And I'm doing it from the back side. I could go from the front and that would give me a better guide. However, I would mar this surface and lose the ability to glue it real well, which may result in it sliding up and down the pipe over time. So I want to avoid that. So I use this as a guide to get started. All right, there we go. All right, looks like that did it. Now I'll grab our deburr tool just to make it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. Make sure that there's nothing that'll snag us here. Now I gotta clean up. But anyway, there's our bushing. So we'll glue this together here in a minute. Alright, we're actually going to make a third one of these, and I'll show you what it's for here in a minute. This is going to be the cap so that water has it's not going to be completely perfect seal, but so that water doesn't just flow into the well when it rains. It kind of will give it as tight of a seal as possible around that pipe while still allowing the pipe to drift in and out. Alright, and then the other thing I'm going to do on this last one, I'm going to go pretty far with this so that it only has a small bearing area. So I'm going to run this bit in to where there's maybe only a 1/2 inch of slick surface. Alright. It almost came off. So you see on this one, let me clean it up first. Alright, so if you see now, there's only, get behind the camera so I can make sure I'm showing you right. There's only maybe a 1/2 inch or so of clearance here, and then the rest is just hogged out big time so that the 3/4 inch pipe is just completely loose in there. So what this allows us to do is slide the 3/4 inch pipe in, and then this acts like a bushing, and the 3/4 inch pipe can go in and out. And as you work this pump over time, this will see now it's already pretty loose. So now it'll allow this to work, and it's just another guide in our system to make sure that this pipe stays completely straight in the well. Alright, so we got our lower plunger assembly built. So we've got our check valve here, we've got the seal assembly, and now what I'm going to do is attach this to the bottom of a 10-foot stick. I've already pre-Teflon this, so let me glue this piece here, and then we'll screw these two together. Alright, now that that's pre-Tefloned and glued, I'll hold it back so I don't let it slip while it's torquing. We'll screw these two pieces together, and I'll hold this here. Make sure that this is air and watertight, because this does have to pull a vacuum to work properly. Alright, so that should be good there. Alright, and now out of some scrap pieces, I've pre-assembled our handle assembly. I ended up finding another cap. So we're going to measure our length here and get this set up. Alright, so something I didn't go over, and let's pause on this. I'm going to assemble the other piece, the outer or lower assembly, and then we'll come back and talk. Alright, so here is the assembled outer assembly out of the 2-inch. So again, we have our 2-inch check valve with the arrow pointed up. Then we have a 1.25 to 1-inch MPT adapter, a 1.25 to, sorry, 1.5 inches to 1.25 adapter with a small piece of 1.25 inside of it. We've got a 2-inch to 1.5 inch reducer, and then we've got we'll run all the way up, and then because of the length of the well, I had to add an additional, can't remember exact dimension, 29 inches onto the top of this assembly. So this down here is going to sit 8 inches off the bottom of the well. I did that so that it doesn't just suck the nasty silt at the very bottom of that 4-inch PVC cap that we sunk down there. But you could put something down here. So this is basically just going to hang in the well bore. So it's going to hang off on that collar, that 2-inch to 4-inch reducer that we had. But the reason I wanted to bring this up here is because this piece of pipe is going to sit inside of here, right? The bottom of this check valve is going to hit right here at this 1.25 inch bushing. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure that length and add a foot to it, and that's the length of the entire assembly to the bottom of this fitting. So we're going to be actually, in my case, 6 inches longer than that. So let's measure this. We are 13 foot 5 inches of total length here. And remember, we're going to stick this piece of pipe up some distance so that this is actually 8 inches up from the bottom. So with this being 8 inches up from the bottom, we're going to stick that piece of pipe 3 inches out of the top of the well. So we'll go ahead and mark that on here. Moment. So we're going to do, it's raining, so this is a little wet. Put this at 3 inches, so that's what's going to be sticking out of the top of the well. Alright, so because we know that this fitting is going to bottom out right here, we're going to measure that distance. That distance is 12 foot 10 inches. So we need this piece from the bottom of here to the bottom of this T to be our 12 foot 10 inch dimension. So with that said, we can measure this, which should be 10 foot plus the length of our piston assembly. So this is 11 foot 1/2 inch. So let's just call it 11 feet so that we bottom out a little early. So we'll do 11 feet there. So we need this plunger assembly, the top half, to be 1 foot 10 inches. So we'll mark that. Alright, so here's our handle assembly. Now we need to glue it to the top of this assembly. I'm going to slide this out of view. So basically we need to glue this like so. But remember, we need to put our bushings in place here. So we have our 1/2 inch bearing bushing that's going to go all the way at the top, and we've got this coupling that's going to go all the way at the top. These are going to be glued together, but they're not going to be attached to the pipe, nor will they be attached to the 2-inch assembly up top. You'll see that in a minute. What we do need to put on is our guide bushing assembly. So I need to mark this 5 foot up from that check valve, or 5 foot up from the last piston assembly, the last guide piece. And this is where we want this thing sitting. And all this is going to do is give us some guidance to keep this pipe from buckling as you're pumping in the wellbore. So you don't want it just snaking through here. This will just kind of help keep it straight. So we'll just go the easy way. There we go. Alright, so this is our 5 foot mark here. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and prime and glue right around this 5 foot mark. And we'll slide this down over it. And let that sit. Alright, so next we need to put our upper bushing together. So we're going to glue these 2 pieces together, slide them on, but not glue any of this. And then we will glue our coupling together to make this assembly the appropriate length. So all I'm doing here is gluing these 2 pieces, so these 2 pieces can be glued together. But that's it. Nothing else gets glued here. Alright, so they're glued together nicely. And in that process I dripped some glue on this pipe. It's going to prove to be a pain. Let's see if this will slide up. Alright, so this will be our upper bushing, as you can see. Now we can put our coupling in place. I've already primed some of this. There's that. Get a little bit more glue here to glue these. And orientation here doesn't really matter because this can actually spin in the wellbore, no problem. Alright, so our last step here is to put this cap assembly on our outer assembly. So this will work. Remember, we're going to have a repair fitting that slides on nicely. We're going to have our cap that we modified by clearing it out. Let's see if we can get this to start. This one's a little bit more snug because we really don't want it moving, but I'm not going to glue it either. There we go. Sometimes once you get them started, they'll go. And we're going to set these once we get down to the well. So I'm not going to glue any of this yet because these 2 repair couplings will be glued in place to keep this from moving, but I don't want to set it here. I want to do it in place so that we know for sure where we're at. And then finally we have this 2-inch collar, which is actually going to go all the way up here. Set this here at an angle like so. And now I'm going to lubricate this O-ring with a generous amount of Vaseline. And go ahead and lubricate these couplings. I'm going to lubricate this one as well, just for good measure. And there we go. All to do that I didn't is clean this edge up with a edger. So just try to clean this up with the deburr tool so that your O-ring doesn't get cut on the way in. And like the fittings of this connection I also cleaned up, and I tried to push them as close together as possible, but there is a step there that the O-ring has to pass just once during installation. So here we go. This should slide in. A little bit of slag there. Alright, this should slide in nicely here. Once we get to the O-ring, it's going to take a little bit of force. I'm going to grab down here and get it past. There we go. And now it'll hit this second spot. Right there, it did. And it went right past it. Then we'll get this pushing through as well. There we go. This will come all the way down and it'll bottom out. And the pump's already working. You can hear it checking, and then this will check. So it's sucking air from the bottom, exhausting it here. Alright, so that's our assembly. So what we're going to do here is lower this pipe down in the well, get the height set that we want, and then we will glue those two repair couplings so that they hold everything in place, and then we'll zip screw that 3-inch to 2, or that 4-inch to 2-inch cap to the casing so that we can recover this later. Alright, so first step is to upright the assembly. Mine's relatively short, so I can do it by myself. If we end up doing a longer weld, this may take 2 people or the help of a tractor. It's not that it's heavy, it's just bulky. So I'm kind of wiping the pipe as we go in. And it's floating more or less because this is full of air right now. So we want this to sit basically the way it's sitting. So I'm going to take this back out and glue it so that I don't drip glue down my well. So take this out and glue it. As you can see, this is completely soaked now. Lots of water in the well. Let's lay this down so we don't get a bunch of dirt in the well. Now we'll pull this handle out and let this rest here. Okay, so determined that this repair coupling needs to be basically flush at the top. So I'm going to put 2 screws in this like we had discussed. And that way we can keep everything straight, and one of the most important things with a well like this is not to drop anything in the hole. So hopefully I can abide by that. Should have brought my sawhorses down here. So I'm going to flip this 180 degrees and put another little screw in here. Alright. Now, gives me the room I need to apply a little bit of glue again. This isn't pressure containing. Just to hold everything in place. Because if it were, I should prime and glue both sides, but we are only doing one. So there's that. Do the same thing to this cap here. So that's nice and flush, and give it a spin. And then I'm going to reach up here, you're not going to be able to see it, and glue where this coupling will sit, and that'll keep the pipe from coming up. I realize that this would probably do the same, but this is just extra measure to keep everything from shifting on us. So we're going to glue up here, and making sure not to get any glue on the bougie of this because then it'll get stuck. So give that a good spin, and then give this surface a wipe to make sure that there is no PVC glue on the inside diameter here. So all that's in place. Kept my glue because, as you'll know, I like to spill these. And some other plumbing adventures. Have purple hands for weeks. Check valve. Looks like we're good. And now that we're ready to install, we will install. Just be careful letting it slide like that because you will hurt yourself pretty good on these couplings. They come across. Alright, and then secure our cap with 4 screws. And these aren't really drilling too deep into that main 4-inch. I'm just giving it just enough of a grab to keep everything sealed and to keep us from dislodging it while we're pumping. Alright, now that we've got all our screws in, we're going to see how this sucker pumps. So we'll give it, oh man, right away. Alright, here we go. We'll pump this well dry and see how many gallons we get. This takes some force. Anyway, you can see pumps really well. Just like that, we've got, this is like a 6.5 gallon bucket, and it's pretty full. There we go. Again, water is a little bit murky, but this bucket's been here a while. You can see the sand that's in the water settled to the bottom, and the surface is pretty clear. I mean, I don't know that I'd actually drink it, but perfect for irrigation. Yeah, now the well's dry. You can feel the resistance got much lighter, and now there's air coming out. So we pumped it down to the bottom of that check valve. And this thing has been producing about 10 gallons an hour. So we did some tests with the electric pump, and I'll do the same test with this and see how quickly it drains out. But anyway, that's a wrap.